Hello guys, Ben here, and welcome back, welcome to the final episode of my 2016 election stuff. Well, so the world got shocked on Tuesday, and Donald Trump won enough electoral votes to become President of the United States of America. Now, of course, this is causing some controversy because Clinton, of course, got a plurality of the popular vote, and therefore she had more than Trump. Now, I don't want to say she won the popular vote, because that implies that she actually crossed that 50% threshold, okay? Even if it was a direct popular vote, nobody would have reached 50%. Of course, that's basically minority ruling, okay, where, a majority of people told your candidate, no, I'm not voting for you, and yet you still win. That's just as bad as the Electoral College picking somebody who didn't win the popular vote, or didn't get the most popular votes. So, you've got an equally bad system. And, of course, people are petitioning, and I'm not going to sign a petition, and part of it's because even if Johnson had won the same way Trump did this year, I would not have said, yeah, we need to fix that system. But the way I think the system needs to be fixed is we need to switch to ranked voting, which, by the way, passed in Maine. The District of Columbia had an interesting ballot measure, and I'll get to the main race in just a second, that I wasn't even aware of. And the District of Columbia actually overwhelmingly voted for this. And the ballot was to shrink the actual governing part of the district a little bit more and make, that way only government buildings were included within this federal area. And that the District of Columbia become a state in the United States. And that one passed overwhelmingly. So that's interesting. And now it'll go before Congress and all that. They'll have to draft a constitution and all that. So, anyway, what you're looking at right now is the map of the United States of America. As they voted in this cycle, with 5 points or less being represented by the lightest shade of pink. 5 to 10 point victories represent the the medium shade of red, and the dark red is represented by a margin of victory of greater than 10 points. If I remember correctly, yeah, South Carolina was beyond that. And as you can see, Democrats definitely start off with an advantage of about 182 safe votes. But then Democrats are, in most years, Texas and Georgia are pretty safe, though Georgia's a bit, demographics are changing in both states. So they kind of shifted from this safe column, which would put it fairly close. They shifted from the safe column into this, a bit closer one. But then, of course, you have swing states and all that got divided up. And you've got 105 plus 41. So 146 votes were really up for grabs. Sort of, but a few others were also up for grabs. So what did I get right? I called Donald Trump. And here's why, okay? So, if I waited a day to make my final prediction, I probably would have predicted Clinton to win. Because I did get some more polling information the day after I recorded that, and it showed Clinton up in just the right state she needed to win. So I probably would have said, okay, trend line flattened for Trump, we'll go ahead and call it for Clinton. And that would have been my final prediction. So, what did I get wrong? States I got wrong. And this is what Trump is more than likely going to win it with. He's more than likely going to win 306 to 232. So I got New Hampshire wrong, though I almost got it right. And what it was I was too aggressive in reading the polls for New Hampshire. And the reason why I was aggressive is because I know the population of the state is very swingy. They tend to swing a lot. So that's why I was there. The Rust Belt states. I predicted Minnesota would be about a 4-point victory for Clinton. It wound up being 1.4 points. In Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, I predicted Clinton to win between 1 and 5 points for the various states. I probably said Pennsylvania would have been about a 3-point victory. So I was very wrong in all 3 states. Michigan is actually currently undergoing a recount, and I wouldn't be too surprised if they actually found it went blue. But I don't think they're gonna change the result. Very rarely do recounts actually change the result. Just to show you how likely. Just as an aside. So I got those wrong because number one, I was going with the polls, and I didn't think the demographic makeup would be just right for Trump. Also, I figured, in the big cities, Clinton's coalition would turn out. In Philadelphia, in Allegheny County, in Detroit, in Flint, in Milwaukee, and a few of the more rural counties near Iowa. But I was wrong. So yeah, that is something that happened. And the other state that I got wrong was Nevada. And that was because I didn't trust early voting numbers. And I trusted the polls too much. And of course, Nevada is a very difficult to poll state, historically speaking. So I got it wrong for those reasons. But overall, I actually did an extremely good job. I think Iowa and Ohio, I was a little bit. I think I was a little bit. I don't want to say conservative on, but I figured Iowa and Ohio would be not close, not too. I figured they would be close, closer than they actually wound up being. But I think part of that's because Trump turnout was extremely high. So there's that. In Maine, I'm really happy. I'm really thrilled. I called the vote, and I had been calling it for a long time. And people didn't believe me. People thought I was crazy at first. But I'm really happy that I called that right, and that my gut feeling that part of the state, which is extremely rural, would go for Trump. It's pretty cool. But this was definitely a lot closer than I think most people expected it to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rate the I'm going to go ahead and say the 5 most likely Democrats to run in 2020. And we'll see how these predictions shape out. And I think it'd be stupid to predict VP at this point because dynamics will definitely change between now and then. And what sounds like a sensible ticket now might be an absolutely ridiculous ticket in 4 years. So Democrats, most likely, I think Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, I think he'd probably be the moderate he'd be the moderate Democrat. And I know you're going to say, what? Cuomo moderate? If you look at his governing principles, if you look at how he's governed New York, he's pretty moderate. For a uber blue state Democrat, he's pretty moderate because he has to please upstate and western New York, which are pretty red. Um, so Cuomo of New York, Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, McLaughlin, and Elizabeth Warren would be the left wing, the Bernie wing of the Democrat Party. The So the establishment candidate, Tim Kaine of Virginia. Then you start having to look, you start having to do some deep digging, and even for Cuomo, you got to do some digging. Bernie's not going to run, and I don't think Hillary will run again. I think Clinton's career is done. I really don't see her campaign, or I really don't see it happening. We're looking at, I'm trying to think, because I need two more for the Democrat side. Julian Castro of Texas might be, considering that Texas has gotten pretty close, is starting to move a little bit back towards the Democrats. I do think that Castro could put Texas in play. Put it in play. I don't think he can win it. I really don't think he can win it. That said, it would be at the cost of Florida. Because, I'm sorry, Florida will not vote for someone named Castro. If you don't know why, the answer's Cuba. If you want to lose Florida as a presidential candidate, be named Castro. So we'll go with Julian Castro, and I'm trying to think of somebody who would be a wild card candidate. Oh, yeah, Russ Feingold. That was the other one. Russ Feingold. And the reason why I say Russ Feingold is he would appeal to that upper Midwest and Rust Belt because he's from there. And that was the area where Democrats lost the biggest. So obviously they want to strengthen their connection to that part of the nation. So you would go with a Midwesterner. Which makes complete sense. Now, if we're looking at Republicans, their main focus is probably looking at the battlegrounds for 2020, but I do think there's a non-zero chance that Ted Cruz tries to pose a primary challenge to Donald Trump, but I think I really think that Ted Cruz is the only one who would. As for third parties, the Libertarians have Justin Amash, who has already declared for 2020. And I would suspect that Austin Peterson will run again in the primaries. Jesse Ventura has been considering it from what I've heard. And Ventura, he's not completely libertarian, but I think he can, adopt to the platform because he's more of a yeah, I think he could adapt to the platform, and plus he would have some broad support, I guess, because political outsider with governing experience. So that is a benefit. Because he was governor of Minnesota. So I do think Ventura would actually be a very qualified candidate. As for the Greens, I don't know who they're going to nominate. They're kind of in a they're kind of in a bind here because Jill Stein is getting old. So you've got you got to figure out what direction does your party go next. Because for a while the Greens kept running Ralph Nader, but Jill Stein is getting old, and now she's going to need to get replaced. So where do they go? And I don't know the answer for that. The other one and the final candidate I'm going to talk about is, even though I'm not even sure if he's entirely serious or if he was, just rambling and ranting and that's what came out his mouth, is Kanye West. And oh, Jesus. If he's actually serious, I'll be a little surprised. I'll be a little surprised, to be quite honest with you. So, battlegrounds for 2020. The Democrats have to play offense, but where to play offense? Florida is an obvious place. Florida is an obvious place. Arizona, of course. Michigan. And if they were to flip those three states, But here's the thing, flipping 2 of 3 is not good enough. As a matter of fact, no, 2 of 3 is good enough if one of those 2 is Florida. Yeah, 2 of 3 is good. Is only good enough if one of those 2 is Florida. Other ripe targets, of course, they'd have to flip all 3 of if they weren't able to flip Florida or Arizona, they would have to play offense in the Rust Belt Upper Midwest, and they would have to flip all 3 in order to win the presidency back. So the Democrats, their top 2016 red states to flip are North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those are the states that I think are primarily on Democrats' maps. Though North Carolina and Arizona are definitely reaches. Especially if Trump doesn't have a primary challenger. Those are going to be North Carolina, Arizona, Iowa, Ohio. Basically, the Romney map is going, plus Iowa and Ohio, and this vote in Maine is going to be extremely hard to crack into. I really don't see it happening, to be quite honest with you, and that means that they're going to have to play to win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Florida, and you only need to win 3 of 4? Okay, no. Florida wouldn't be enough. See the fewest they could do it in. I think it's 2 with Pennsylvania and Florida. It would be Pennsylvania and Florida, but yeah, that's going to be very difficult. That said, it's definitely possible. So, what are the states Republicans are looking at? Well, of course, they're going to try and play defense, but they do have opportunity for offense. In New Hampshire, in Minnesota, and if we're looking at states that were very close, I'd say Nevada as well. Nevada is definitely one that's ripe. So is all of Maine, which would actually leave, which would be this. This is kind of the upper one, though. Depending on how well the economy is doing and how Trump is actually doing as a president, Virginia and Colorado could be back on the map. And heck, even New Mexico, even New Mexico could be back on the map for the Republicans. And this would be about as big as I could see it happening. Like I said, this is about as big as I can see it happening. And I mean, maybe if there was this insane, and trust me, it would take an insane, like his approval rating would have to be in the 90s to even have an outside shot at New York. Though I really do think that Trump may try and win his home state of New York. For 2020, it's got to be on his map, if not the Republican map. But I don't think it'll happen, to say the least. But this is what would happen if the Republicans play offense. But I don't think they're going to play too much offense. They're going to focus on the states that were close enough for them to that I think they would be more than capable of flipping, and that's Minnesota and New Hampshire. Those are Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Nevada. Those are the three that were close enough where if I felt comfortable enough to play offense as a Republican strategist, I would go. I wouldn't try to flip anything other than that. I wouldn't go super aggressive. And that's where I would go. Other than that, I would be focusing heavily on protecting 306. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. 4 years, who knows, maybe I'll do this again. Anyway, thank you.